Empowered Nurses. It's Lorie Brown from empowerednurses.org and yournurseattorney.com. And today I'm talking to Marc Lopez, attorney with Marc Lopez Law Firm in Indianapolis, Indiana. And Marc is a criminal attorney, and today we are going to talk about expungement versus dismissal because it's a very common area of misconception with nurses. So I have our resident expert here, Marc. Welcome, Marc.
Oh my gosh, I love being referred to as an expert. You're making me blush. So excited to be here, Lorie. It's always a pleasure to do this with you. So let's talk about this. What do you want to know?
So if a nurse gets a criminal matter, the first words out of their mouth are, I didn't do it, right?
I would hope so, yes.
Right. And so how can so once they get a criminal matter and they have charges filed against them, how can they resolve their matter?
So there's, in Indiana at least, where I'm an expert, if someone gets a criminal charge, the first thing that could happen is the prosecutor throws their hands in the air and dismisses the case. That's obviously what every criminal defense attorney wants, and our clients, because that means, hey, we made a mistake. There shouldn't have been charges filed. Have a great day. I will say that is the extreme rarity of how a case gets resolved with a straight up dismissal. It does happen, and that's always what our goal is, but that is not the most common type resolution. So after dismissal, what's above that would be some sort of diversion where essentially most Indiana counties require that the person admit there is probable cause for the arrest. We're both attorneys. Probable cause is a very, very low burden. If the human body was a ruler, it'd be like your kneecaps. It's not very high. Beyond a reasonable doubt would be like my forehead. But you simply say, hey, there was probable cause for the arrest. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. So you do a class, community service work, maybe pay some money. And then if you stay out of trouble for a year, the case gets dismissed. So quite frankly, I love diversions because anything that results in a dismissal at the end, I love it. I absolutely love it. If we can't work out a dismissal or a diversion, then there's a possibility to negotiate what charges are actually pled guilty to. And, the ultimate resolution, if there's a felony, perhaps we can negotiate it down to a misdemeanor. Obviously, negotiating things can go all over the place. You can jail time, work release, home detention, probation. Some cases, if you plead guilty, you don't got to do anything. Just say the words and you walk out of court. If that's not going to work, then we go to trial. And with a trial, it's truly up to the judge or jury on whether or not they find a person guilty, not guilty. And then even if the judge or jury finds a person guilty or not guilty, in Indiana at least, the judge is the one that sentences the person. So the jury is taken out of the equation for sentencing purposes. So those are the kind of possible resolutions you can get in Indiana.
Okay, so and now in other states, there's things like no contest or nolo contendere or nolo presse, that kind of stuff. Indiana doesn't have that, right?
Indiana does not have that. So some states have what's called an Alford plea. You basically admit that if the state went to trial, they would win, but you're still maintaining you didn't do it. Indiana does not have that. For traffic cases, there is the nolo contendere, like I'm not disputing it, but for criminal law, you have to either say I'm guilty or not guilty and go to the next part. And that's only for Indiana. New York, I know, has the Alford plea and some other states as well.
And the reason why we're talking about this is because we want to talk about expungement versus dismissal because there's a lot of confusion about expungement and dismissal. So Marc, can you explain what expungement is?
Absolutely. So in Indiana, there's two types of expungement. The first expungement is if you've been arrested and charged and you were not convicted, 1 year after you were charged, you can actually go to the court and say, expunge my arrest record. And that basically eliminates your arrest record from being found in state databases, on places such as mycase.in.gov. That's Indiana's repository, which is publicly accessible. And when it's expunged, it's as if it didn't happen. You can even mark on employment situations, have you ever been arrested? Once it's been expunged, no, super amazing. That's fantastic. So if an arrest does not result in a conviction, it's 1 year from the arrest date. Logistically, though, sometimes it's a little bit longer than 1 year from the arrest date, because if you get arrested in, say, January, and you get your diversion or you get your dismissal in June, but you got to stay out of trouble for 1 year, you can't get your case expunged 1 year after the arrest. It's going to be 1 year after the case is dismissed. So it's not always a solid 1 year. That's why you got to have a knowledgeable attorney kind of explain the processes to you. So that's the first kind. The second kind is if you do plead guilty to something, if it's a misdemeanor, you have to wait 5 years from the guilty plea to have your record expunged. If it's a level 6 felony or the old D felony, you have to wait 8 years from the conviction to get it expunged. The exception is if that felony at some point turns into a misdemeanor, then it's 5 years from date of conviction. Indiana just resolved this issue within the last 3 or 4 months. If you had to truly wait 8 years or 5 years if it got turned into a misdemeanor. And now here's the fun part. Those are the dates written in stone in the law. That is negotiable. So it's hard. It's not always going to happen, but there are situations where we've had doctors, we've had nurses, pharmacists. This truly was going to halt their career. And so we've had cases where we're prepared to go to trial. We're presenting a defense, and everyone kind of just says, halt. How can you plead guilty if we agree to expungement after 1 year? Can we plead guilty to expungement after 2 years as opposed to waiting the full 5 years or 8? So expungement's amazing, and it gets it off your record. And the only place it exists, except for what you're going to talk about, Lorie, is law enforcement are allowed to access these expunged records. And so expungement's fantastic, but a dismissal is still better than a guilty plea with an expungement down the road. Does that make sense?
Yes, for criminal purposes.
And Lorie, one of the things that, one of the great things about getting to know you and talking with you regularly is, I thought when something was expunged, it was gone except for the police departments. But as you and I have been working together these past few years, that's not 100% true. If there's a nursing license, it can still come back to haunt you. Am I right?
Right. So look, before I address this, I want to ask you a couple more questions. In Indiana, is expungement a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? And does that just pertain to convictions?
Indiana, you can only expunge convictions one time in your life. If you keep getting arrested and you keep getting the case dismissed, you can file those forever. There's no limitation,
okay,
and there's no charge. So if you get arrested and dismissed through diversion or dismissal, you file those forever. But if you are convicted, you have only one chance on that. And then once you use that conviction expungement, you don't qualify anymore.
So this is important for a couple reasons. One is, well, and not that we want nurses to be frequent flyers of the criminal justice system, but it's important to know the difference between expungement and dismissal, because on your nursing license application or renewal application, you do not have to put if you've had a matter expunged. If a matter was dismissed, absolutely you've got to put it. So the problem that we have here is that you renew every 2 years. You can't get an expungement for 5 years. So you still are going to have to put it on your nursing board license. And the other thing I wanted to mention is even if you got arrested, if you get arrested prior to the renewal, like if you got arrested like right after you renewed, hopefully you can get it expunged in time if it's dismissed before you have to renew, and then you wouldn't have to notify the board of that. Otherwise you do, but because of the time frames, it's kind of unlikely that you would have a nursing board matter that you didn't have to disclose. So here's the rub. If you have a nursing board matter where charges are filed against your license based on that arrest or that conviction, even if you get the matter expunged later, it doesn't go away. So that nursing board matter is still public record, and people can still find it even if you get the criminal matter expunged. Um, I have actually,
Oh man, I didn't think about that.
yeah, and
Man,
I don't think that's right. I would love expungement's there for a reason to protect people and give them this once opportunity or even an arrest. But if it's a basis of a nursing board matter, even if you get it expunged, it's still permanent. And it's sad that other employers have to see this and the public gets to see this. And yeah, it's off your criminal record, but it's still on your license. So I've spoke to the chair of the chair of the health committee for our Indiana State Congress about getting this changed, and we haven't so far been able to change it. So if you're listening, please reach out to your congressperson and tell them if you have if you're allowed to expunge something in the criminal matter, you should be able to get it expunged in the nursing board matter as well.
and so Laura, just for people like me who don't do this every day like yourself, there's the criminal matter and then there's a concurrent nursing matter. And so even though the expungement gets rid of off that, it's still on this nursing. That is that seems almost like it's the opposite of what the intent of the expungement law.
Exactly, exactly. You should be able to take it if you're going to get it expunged criminally, and you don't even have to tell employers, but they look at your nursing license and find out, well, wait a minute, you have a previous conviction. I think it's wrong.
No, that seems so unfair. And
It is, and I know nurses. I don't. Most of these, okay, DUIs you can easily get expunged, but even drug issues, people, nurses don't wake up in the morning and decide, oh, I'm going to go steal drugs from the hospital if they have a problem. It's just not how we're wired. And if you are doing the hard work and getting recovery and doing great and um, finally get it off your criminal license, why should it still be on the nursing board, especially if everything's all resolved? So just my opinion here.
completely agree.
Yeah. So I
And
just want,
so,
oh, go ahead, Mark.
no, I'm just trying to, that literally is, as you know, you learn new things. I feel the dendrites being grown in my brain here. Ah,
You've been
I feel
hanging around
I feel
nurses
terrible for
too
you.
long.
I would say every single nurse I help has been absolute. I say this without reservation. They've been absolute one of some of my best clients because just like you said, you're not going to be able to be a nurse if you have a terrible criminal background. And then the people that come in here, no, without exception, they've all been caring about people. They love their job for the most part. And the idea that they can never move on beyond this, that blows my mind. And I feel
Yeah.
terrible about that.
And they can, and they do. There are people that have had their nursing license restored free and clear after they've done all the hard work. They've completed the monitoring program, and they've done amazing. But yet, it's still on their record. And again, I think it's wrong. If you can take advantage of the expungement, you should get the benefit at the nursing board as well.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Um, so Mark, so let's review a couple things. One is I want to make sure that nurses know that there is a difference between dismissal and expungement. So people think, oh, I was fine for a year and it went away. I don't have to report it. Yes, you do, unless you get it officially expunged. The magic word is expunged, not dismissed. And I know there's just a lot of confusion about that because I get calls every day. And then the second thing is just know that if you choose to get your criminal matter expunged, which I would highly recommend, if you're eligible, it's worth it, I think. Have a clean record, but just know if you have a nursing board matter as a result of it, that unfortunately that's public record for good.
Laura, you bring up a really good point. We get calls on a weekly basis. Hey, Mark, I have a job interview on Friday. They're going to do a background check on a Monday. Can we get my stuff expunged by the end of the week? Probably not. The state has, even if we file the same day we're hired, the state has 30 days to respond. We've had some amazing success stories where reach out to the prosecutor, reach out to the court staff, and we've been able to do some super fast ones. But if you qualify for expungement, exercise your right. And the worst time to try to do an expungement is right when you need it. The best time is when you're able to do it. And I know that's hard because everyone values money. You don't want to, if it's not pressing right now, it's not like, I got to spend the money right now. But getting that off your record is so amazing because we never know what opportunities await us. With the nursing issues, it sounds like they re-up their license every 2 years. So you kind of know it's coming, but don't wait till the 2 weeks before you got to fill that paperwork out. Give me as much time as possible to make some magic happen. And I know Lorie would appreciate that which is helping you guys fill out the paperwork and whatnot.
And for those of you that do have a DUI, and if it's over, what is it, five years, right?
If it's a misdemeanor, 5 years. If you pled guilty 5 years ago, call us up. If it's been 8 years for a felony, call us up. But most of the ones with nursing is misdemeanors, and that's what we're seeing a lot of with nurses, and that's what we're trying to do. So if it's been 5 years, give us a call. If we can't help you, we'll find someone who can.
Yeah, it's worth it. Get it off your record. You don't want employers seeing it. And, we have a lot of nurses that have this one-time DUI. We're able to get them their license free and clear, if they've done all the things that we've suggested. But again, it's still in the criminal. Maybe you have your license free and clear, but you still have that criminal record. So it's worth it to get it off of your criminal record. And it's great that you don't have it on your nursing board record. But unfortunately, if you do have it on the nursing board record, even if you get it expunged, it's still on your nursing board record. And so in that case, go to your state representatives. Let's get this law changed, because it just doesn't make sense that it could be, the whole entire criminal system, which is your freedom versus your ability to practice. It can be removed from that, but not from the nursing board.
I'm dropping the knowledge here, Lorie, and I appreciate it.
So the other thing I wanted to share is we were talking about getting your matter dismissed, or which again rarely happens, right, Mark? Flat out dismissed. Yeah. We were talking about no contest, pretrial diversion, and the guilty plea. What you do need to know is that if you plead to anything, no contest, no diversion, any of that, you have 90 days after the conviction to file a notice of conviction with the board. There's also issues with how you plead, because if you plead to certain things, you can be placed on the Office of the Inspector General list, exclusion list, where you can't take care of Medicare or Medicaid patients for up to 5 years, which is horrible to be on that list. So again, make sure we've had other videos about that. So make sure that you and your criminal defense attorney do your homework in terms of making sure that you plead properly, so you don't get on this list, because that would be awful if you work so hard to get your freedom and then get on a list and you can't practice nursing anymore.
Lorie, if someone does end up on that list, which is horrible, we've all agreed, what is the typical amount of time they are stuck on that list?
Well, there's two types of ways you can get on the list. The first is mandatory. If you plead certain things, and it's usually felony convictions to certain things, then you will be on that list automatically for 5 years. No ands, if, buts, or ors about it. And then that includes a pretrial diversion. Okay, so if you're on that list because of a pretrial diversion, if you plead to certain things, remember that's the one where you have, if you're clean for a certain period of time, like a year or 2 years, they'll dismiss it, which you said you guys love. You have to plead it right, or you still will end up on the list. And then the other type of way to get on the list is through a permissive, which means it's not mandatory, but the federal government can place you on that list permissively for up to 5 years, and they will take into consideration mitigating factors, mitigating meaning that decrease the amount of time that you're on that list. However, we don't want you to be on that list at all. So there's certain ways to plead it to make sure you're not on the list, but they can look at the underlying facts to determine if you should be on the list or not. So I have articles on this. Mark and I have done other videos, so please take a look at that. And so you know, you can make sure you're not on that list. But the point of today is to just share with you, expungement and dismissal are not the same. And expungement is the best. If you have something you need to get expunged, better to do it now than to wait. And know that it will be public on nursing board anyways. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add, Mark?
Nothing, Lorie. Thank you so much for having me with you today. And there's such a satisfaction when nurses hire me, and when the second call they got to make, hey, call Lorie Brown's office, because they're going to be the ones looking out for your license. And I've had such amazing success stories with you. I love is co-tackling a word? I love working together on cases with you, because it's fantastic. And I appreciate taking care of my clients. And if anybody needs anything, don't be shy about reaching out.
And we do the same. You know, they come to us thinking, well, you protect nurses. Can you help me with the criminal matter? Nope, go to Mark. I don't do criminals. I just protect your license. Mark protects your freedom. So it's a great relationship. We work very closely. Mark is one of the few criminal attorneys that understand all the implications for nurses, which is extremely important. As you can tell, you know, things can happen that you don't understand, and your criminal defense attorney may not understand either, like the list. Mark didn't know about that before we started working together, so we learn from each other. I don't do criminals. I learn about his criminal stuff, and he learns from me. So we all have our own area of where we like to play. So, Mark,
any lawyer is I'm sorry, Lorie, say it again.
Oh, I so appreciate you being here today.
That's it. Thank you so much, Lorie. Anything you need, always reach out, okay?
Thanks. And Mark's contact information is on, you can see it above his name as well. So yeah, I like that. I got to get one of those. All right. So again, stay safe and don't get in trouble. But if you do, you know where to go, and we're both here to help. But obviously, we'd love to not have you have a problem. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Have a great day. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.